Hello, everybody. Ali Duzette here. Long time no see. And today we have to talk about the fact that eclipse season 2025 is right around the corner. Of course, there are two eclipse seasons every year, and this is our second one this year. And in my opinion, it is a very big deal. And so I made you this slideshow. This is my first time using Canva to make a cool slideshow, so I hope that you like it. Okay, we have just entered a new eclipse season, and okay, eclipses take place twice a year in sets of two or three at a time. Every solar eclipse comes with a matching lunar eclipse and vice versa, each 2 weeks apart. During the time between eclipses, we have powerful opportunities to close up old cycles and start new ones. And these cycles have to do with every kind of thing you can imagine in our lives. There are 6 different axes of the zodiac that each get triggered during eclipse cycles, and the stuff that those axes govern, we see in our own lives how that stuff gets shifted for us personally. And so all of us are always experiencing this because we have eclipse cycles twice a year. This upcoming eclipse cycle is taking place on the Virgo Pisces axis, which is going to give us all a special focus on those particular areas of our lives. And I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. But we started our first eclipse cycle of this year back in about February and March. And now here we are for the next one in the series. And so the stuff that was happening back then, you may see that there are some echoes of that coming up for you in this, basically in the month of September. And starting now, because we just had the new moon in Virgo, I believe at 00 degrees of Virgo, which is a powerful time for resetting. The new moon is always powerful for resetting, but at 00 degrees, that is a real doozy of a resetter. We are all being invited to reset the things in our lives dealing with Virgo and dealing with Pisces. So, what are those things? Every eclipse cycle offers us powerful opportunities for healing, but that is especially true when we're dealing with Virgo and Pisces because Virgo and Pisces govern physical and spiritual health. Virgo is all about physical health. Virgo is the nurse of the zodiac. Virgo loves supplements, and it doesn't always love actually exercising, but it at least loves to think about exercising. It's very into thinking about fitness, even if it doesn't actually do the fitness. Virgo loves that stuff. And Pisces governs spiritual health. Pisces deals with our connection with the divine. It deals with our true spirituality that transcends even religion. I would say Sagittarius is the sign that governs religion and like the rules and structure of spiritual worship and that kind of thing. And Pisces is just the straight connection, straight spiritual connection, pure spirituality with basically no boundaries on it. So we're dealing with the interplay between the physical body and the spirit. And so this is going to probably bring up a lot of interesting dynamics for all of us, you and me, everybody in the entire world. We'll have to see what happens on a geopolitical scale because this is the axis that deals with basically all health things, pharma things, pharmaceuticals. It deals with supplements. We have a lot of stuff going on with restructuring the FDA right now in the United States. And, it's been a couple of years since COVID, but, there is still somewhat of a focus on people, shall we say, receiving justice for the things that happened at that time. And it will be very interesting to see how many things happen in that area over the month of September, but really starting about now. So, as we head into this season, we need to be on the lookout for the personal divine messages about what we still need to heal in our lives and how we need to heal those things. And I just want to mention for a moment that while it would be really great if all of us were, personally in control of what we needed to heal and what our own life journeys are, hopefully we have all realized by now that we are not in control of this. We really are not the boss of what we need to heal. And I think I'll speak for myself. I have spent a lot of time over the years looking at myself and assessing, like, okay, what are my problems? These are the problems I think that I have. What do I need to do to heal them? How am I going to heal them? And that's good. And I think that introspection is really important, and there is a lot of value to be had from looking within and really assessing, what do we need to take care of? What is wrong with us? How do we fix it? But also, God has a different perspective on all of our lives than we do, which does make it a little bit more tricky. So we have this situation where we might feel like, the example coming into my mind is like closure. So you've had this bad breakup, this like romantic event didn't end the way that you wanted to. You just want closure. You feel like, if only I could have closure, then I could heal. But like, of course, the newsflash is that most of the time closure is not possible. Most of the time that is not possible. And at least not the way that we think that we want closure. It's not always possible to have the conversation and to have it without you or the other person getting triggered, and to like fully hash out what exactly happened and make sense of it all. um, that's the kind of thing that sometimes we can do just with God directly and receive closure that way, when a real life conversation cannot work. But my big point here is that we might think that we need closure to heal, as an example, but in reality that is just not always true. We create our own kind of prisons around how we think we can heal. This is the only way that I can heal. I can only heal if I get to have this conversation, if I get to say what I want to say, if the other person validates everything that I said and they apologize and change, then I can heal. That's not always true. We create these structures and assign these rules onto how we need our healing to go. But one of the big messages of this exact eclipse cycle is going to be that we're wrong, and that God has a really different agenda for all of us than we are aware of. Okay. God has a different idea of what we need to heal than we do. God is looking at us and saying, okay, this person really is focused on, this problem or that problem, but what they should really be focusing on is this other thing. And regardless of where our conscious minds are focused, our creator is going to make sure that the stuff that actually needs to happen for our lives is going to happen whether we like it or not. And I feel like I've been receiving a massive crash course on that myself in the past few months, which is one reason why I haven't been on YouTube so much. That is the reality. That is the bottom line, is that no matter how great we think our own plans for healing are, no matter how thoroughly we feel like we have decided is the best way for us to live our lives, like, God has just a different agenda. And this eclipse season is very likely going to throw us a few curveballs to make us realize that we're not the boss here. That in our Virgo style drive for perfection, there are other agendas in play, and sometimes we just have to let go and go with the flow. That's the Pisces energy on the other side of the axis. We're going to be invited to really consider, where do I need to work harder to make things more perfect? And where do I need to maybe just give up and just accept how things are, even if it hurts, even if I would rather do anything else than accept that? How am I going to accept that? These are the questions that we're going to have come up. And as we head into this season, we need to be paying attention to those tiny messages that we're getting about, what does God think my top priority should be right now? And honestly, that's a great question to just ask. Put it down in writing and just say, God, what is your top priority for me today? What is your top priority for me to get out of this eclipse cycle? Tell me what to do. And you just write down the answers that come into your mind. And that can be an extremely powerful process anytime, but especially for the next month or so. These are some of the emotional themes that we're heading into with these 2025 eclipses coming up. We're going to be dealing with clarity versus confusion. Okay, Virgo is obsessed with the truth. Virgo is really, it can be a pretty black and white thinker, and it can really decide, like, I'm right and you're wrong, and this is what's right and this is what's wrong. And Virgo wants to know what is true. And Pisces, kind of the default setting of Pisces is to realize that truth is kind of squishy and you know where Virgo is sitting there saying, I want the absolute truth, objective truth. Pisces is the one that's saying, well, everybody has their own truth. And kind of both of those things are true, right? Like I do believe in an objective truth that is bigger than people, that's bigger than the planet. I believe that there are things that are just simply true. They are just absolutely true. And at the same time, it is also true that everybody is on their own journey, that something can be objectively true and it may not be right for you to understand that truth at this moment. That everybody's on their own timeline. We're going to see some of these themes creeping up. And so as we go into this, you may want clarity and come out more confused than you were before, but conversely, you may be confused and actually find clarity. This is a Virgo heavy eclipse cycle, so I'm feeling like we will have actually a lot of support to find some real clarity, and that is going to be really great. If you are on the lookout right now for some new truths or new conviction of old truths, in your life, like this is a great time for all of that. And we have a lot of support for understanding truth as we need to understand it for this period of our lives right now. Virgo and Pisces also deal with issues of control versus surrender. Virgo is definitely the control freak of the zodiac, and Virgo wants everything to be exactly how Virgo wants it to be. And when it is not, Virgo is not very happy about that. Um, Pisces, however, understands that control um, is like it can't really work. Like there's many things that are outside of our control, and Pisces is much more like go with the flow. So this is a theme that you're going to see over the next month. Where do you want everything to be under your control? And then you get to watch how it will all fall apart. But conversely, you may find that you have a lot of support to take what has fallen apart and impose some order and structure upon it. Okay? It, Order and structure are not bad. We need them. It is not bad to control things in your life. We need control. The trick is the balance. And the other trick is realizing that when it comes to finding that balance, um, what is balanced for you today may not be the right balance in the future. And so in my own life, my youngest is now 4 years old, and she's like kind of a big girl, and she can kind of do her life a little bit, and I don't have to sit there like you have to do with a brand new baby and with like a tiny toddler who, you know, is always running amok and getting into trouble. Like it's a whole different world. And now, what my life looks like today versus 4 years ago, there's a whole different balance of control versus surrender. And that's how life is. We have to find the balance as we go through life. And things are going to shift and change. So this is a perfect time to sit there and say, okay, where have I had to exert control and create order? Where have I succeeded? Where have I failed? Where do I need to surrender? Or where have I surrendered a lot of my control and now it's time to assert it again? Like, where do I need to impose more control in my life? How am I going to create the proper balance for where I am today? And that's really the only job that we ever have, is to focus on today. The past doesn't exist anymore. It exists in our minds and that's it. Like, the things that have happened to us in the past are in the past, and the future hasn't happened yet, and we can't control it, and things show up that we can't expect. The one thing that we have control over is today. So, what is the right balance for today? Regardless of what has happened in the past, regardless of what might or might not happen in the future, how do we do this today? And that's where we obviously have to connect with God, our creator, and ask for divine wisdom. How do I find this balance just for today? I understand that I can't fix the past that already happened. I can't control what's going to happen tomorrow, but I can take responsibility for my choices today. So, where do I need more structure and where do I need more surrender? We're going to find themes of perfectionism versus self acceptance. And the questions I wrote here are, what does it take to be accepted? And where does rejection come from? Okay, so my thoughts about this are that Virgo is really into perfectionism. I would say unhealthily so. I would say everybody with a lot of Virgo energy deals with unhealthy perfectionism to some extent in their life. I am a Virgo, and so I feel like I can speak with some authority on this. It deals with a lot of perfectionist takes, and Virgo's default setting can kind of err on the side of if it's not perfect, it's not worth it. If it's not perfect, it's not worthy. If you're not perfect, you're not good enough. And that's the kind of internal self talk that a lot of Virgos have, where they will sit there and really judge themselves quite harshly. And sometimes they will often judge other people very harshly as well. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, we have Pisces. And Pisces is kind of funny because Pisces often deals with rejection issues. Um, so remember that Pisces and Virgo are two sides of the same coin. They are the opposite sides of the zodiac. They create this axis, right? Where they kind of push and pull and tug on each other and create this beautiful opposition, but they're complementary. They work together even though they're kind of opposites. And so, where Virgo is sitting there obsessing over perfection and saying, I can only accept you if you're perfect, Pisces knows that it can't be perfect. And a lot of times, Pisces is the sign that governs rejects and outcasts. And a lot of times people with a lot, oh, yes, give me 5 minutes. I will make me some popcorn. Go downstairs. Um, a lot of times, Pisces deals with real struggles with rejection. And people with a lot of Pisces energy can feel rejected even when they're not actually being rejected. They can feel like outcasts even if no one is outcasting them. But if you can think about this axis of on the one side, I have to be perfect in order to be worthy. And then on the other side is this kind of feeling of like, I don't know how to be worthy and I don't know why people aren't accepting me. This is the kind of energy that we may see coming up over the next month. Um, where where are you personally obsessing over perfection? Where do you feel rejected? And how can we shift both of those unhealthy sides of this axis into a space of understanding that I'm never going to be perfect in this life. Like I may not be perfect right now, and it's okay. And my level of perfection is not tied to my actual worth as a human being, as a child of God. What would it look like if I could love myself even when I feel like other people are rejecting me? What would it feel like if I could find peace, understanding that maybe sometimes the rejection I feel is not actually real? Okay. These are all some thought questions to have on our minds as we head into this season. And then, there are many more themes that go on this axis, but these are just four that I highlighted. Virgo deals with the body, and Pisces deals with the spirit, and both of them are obsessed with health. And so, one of the big questions that we will get to confront over the next month is how am I taking care of my body? How am I taking care of my spirit? Am I experiencing a good balance in how I'm taking care of both ends of the spectrum? Am I taking care of my body the way I'm supposed to? Am I taking care of my spirit the way I'm supposed to? Okay, save the date. September the 7th is the date of the total lunar eclipse that kicks off this eclipse season. Now, again, it kind of a little bit started with the new moon that just took place a couple of days ago in Virgo, but really, this eclipse is when all of our energy fields are kind of ripped wide open, and we're all open to way more spiritual guidance. And well, I'll just talk about that for a second. So, what happens is, when the sun and the moon are as far apart as they can possibly be. Um, and so during a lunar eclipse, it's taking place on the full moon, where the moon and the sun are as far apart as they can be. And then the earth comes in between and casts a shadow on the moon, and it disrupts the connection between the moon and the sun. Spiritually speaking, the sun represents your core sense of self, and the moon represents your kind of emotional side or like the spirit side of you. And when we have this eclipse disruption, it's kind of like it doesn't completely sever the connection between your internal sun and moon, like your symbolic sun and moon inside of you. Um, but there is a kind of energetic opening that takes place during this event. And once your internal sun and moon have this opening between them, it allows for a lot more divine communication. And this is not typically conscious. This is happening whether you realize it or not. And believe me, 99.9999% of the planet has no idea that this is happening. Um, and that's fine. And that's totally fine. I honestly think that that's probably best for most people because life is crazy and complicated. And this stuff is really interesting. I mean, I love it, which is why I study it and why I make, things like this about it, little presentations and stuff, because I think it's interesting. For me, it's worth knowing. But, it's not for everybody, and that's fine. And, everybody, if all we can do is focus on living our lives, that's all we can do, and that is good enough. Okay, so that's good enough. But this lunar eclipse moment, when the earth comes in between the sun and the moon, that is that moment that is going to disrupt how our spirits are normally functioning and opening us up to a new kind of functioning just for these 2 weeks between eclipses. And during that time, we are open to more spiritual communication. And I always like to issue a warning that not all spiritual communication is good. Um, of course, if you believe in good spirituality, there's also a bad spirituality, and so we've just got to be careful to what we're listening to, spiritually speaking, and just be sure that every day we're doing our best to stay in alignment with God and goodness. And as we do that, I do believe that we are protected and guided appropriately. So, this eclipse portal, as they say, will close up with the partial solar eclipse taking place on September 21st, 2025, which what's special about September 21st? Of course, it is the fall equinox. And so it's that moment where where summer turns into fall. And it is the day of the 29th degree of Virgo, when the sun goes to 29 degrees of Virgo, the final degree, the anaritic degree. So this solar eclipse is taking place at exactly 29 degrees of Virgo, which is crazy that we started off this eclipse season with a 00 degree new moon in Virgo, and then we're closing it up with a 29 degree and 5 minute uh, solar eclipse in Virgo. Okay, this is a huge divine message that it is super time for everyone on the whole planet to be wrapping up old patterns that had to do with Virgo energy. And it's time to open up some new patterns. We're going to start some new habits. We're going to see the world a little differently. We're going to stop seeing the world the way that we did for the past 18 years. I said 18 years because eclipses run on an 18-year cycle. But for some of us, some of the habits that are going to come up for revision have been with us for far longer than that, and for some of us, far shorter than that. It all I can tell you is it's going to bring us up all sorts of Virgo related things, and we're going to have to process them, whether we do it intentionally or not. So basically, you don't even have to do anything. You just get to live your life and just trust that everything that happens between now and September 21st of 2025 is going to be exactly what you need. It really is as simple as that. But there are things that you can do to, you know, take more responsibility, I guess, to make it as positive an experience as possible. So these are some ideas that I had for all of us. First, Virgo and Pisces govern the axis of tidiness versus clutter. Virgo is the one that wants everything to have a place and everything to be in its place. Pisces is the one that says, ah, whatever. And Pisces is the more cluttery sign. That's not to say that everyone who's a Virgo sun is super tidy and everyone who's a Pisces sun is cluttery. That is not what that means. But it's just to say that this axis in total governs the situation that each of us is dealing with when it comes to tidiness versus clutter. So I'm going to invite you, particularly right now, to get very clear on what you need to do to find the right balance of tidiness and clutter in your own life. I don't think everybody in this world needs to be a minimalist by any means. And I personally am okay with a minimal to moderate amount of clutter. I think my house is like much more cluttered than I wish it was, but it is like not nearly as cluttered as many other houses that I've been to. The secret of dealing with clutter and tidiness is to find what works for you and your family. And one of the easiest things you can do right now is just take a deep breath and ask yourself, is my current level of tidiness or clutter appropriate for me and my family? Is this making me happy? And if the answer is no, then you get to say, okay, God, okay, I clearly have a problem with my balance between tidiness and clutter. So how, what do you want me to do about this? Like, what is the first step? And so on my email list, I sent out an email last week inviting everybody to just set a 5-minute timer and scribble out your resistance to decluttering. And I have a scribbling tutorial here on YouTube. You can search Ali Duzette scribbling and it will teach you how to do this. But it clears out the energy that keeps us stuck. And it's very easy and fast. Then you just set a 15-minute timer and you say a little prayer and say, okay, God, show me the things that my life would be better without. Like, help me get rid of items now. And then you go around and fill up a bag with some items and you take it out to your car and take out your Google Calendar and set up a time that you are going to go to the donation center and drop that stuff off. This is the perfect time to do this. If you can declutter for 10 minutes a day every day between now and September 21st, wow, I will clap for you. I will be so happy for you, and you will be so happy for you. Your life will be so much better. It's also time to get clear on God's divine opinion of your life and what you're up to. Pisces governs unity with the divine. And Virgo, of course, loves perfection. This is a great time to take our own ideas of what it would take for us to be perfect and say, God, am I accurate? What do you want me to be focusing on right now? This is a powerful time to seek our Creator's thoughts on what we're doing with our lives and where we might need to change things. Okay, these are some journaling prompts. I will hopefully remember to copy and paste these into the description of this YouTube video, but I'll just read them to you right now. Okay, where in my life am I clinging to control? What would happen if I surrendered? In what ways have I taken on too much responsibility for other people's emotions, health, or well-being? Where have I not taken enough responsibility for others' well-being? What boundaries would bring me back into balance? What habits, routines, or thought patterns are outdated for me now? Where do I need an upgrade with this? What synchronicities or divine messages have I received lately? What more does my Creator want to tell me now? If I viewed service as sacred instead of self-sacrificial, how would I show up differently in my relationships, my work, or my spiritual path? Okay, I love these journaling prompts. I really hope that you spend some time with them between now and September 21st. I think it will be well worth your time. I want to talk about the second one really fast, which deals with where have we taken on too much responsibility for other people's emotions, health, or well-being? And then where have I not taken enough responsibility for others' emotions, health, or well-being? What boundaries would help me come back into balance? And I want to mention this one because I think it's been really the vogue for probably about a decade now that we all need to take responsibility for our own emotions. It's not my fault how you feel. And that is true. And yet there is also an appropriate amount of responsibility to take for the feelings of those around us. I personally find it a little distressing when we err so much on the side of every man for himself emotionally that we are not willing to be considerate of others. Obviously, there is a smart boundary to be had. We cannot afford to bend over backwards for other people's comfort all the time. It's not appropriate for us to go crazy trying to ensure other people's happiness. Like, we can't control if they're happy or not. But at the same time, we can control our behavior with other people. And I don't know, I think it becomes problematic when we justify our own bad behavior, our own rudeness, or I don't know, just taking advantage of other people, that kind of thing. And we tell ourselves, well, you know, it's not my fault if they feel bad about that. Like they're in charge of their own emotions. You do know what I'm saying? I think that this can also be especially visible in terms of parenting, where for a parent to say that they have no responsibility for the emotions or health or well-being of their children, like that's obviously untrue. Like as a parent, you are responsible for their well-being and for their health, and to some extent for their emotions. I mean, obviously not completely, but like you do have a responsibility to not try and trample and destroy their emotions, for no reason, right? So, anyway, my big invitation for us is to just be circumspect about this concept. Uh, in our haste to have really great boundaries and only be in charge of ourselves, where might we need to be a little bit more considerate of the other people in our lives? Here are some tapping scripts. And so you can go ahead and tap, tap, tap on your collarbone or your forehead, and we will just read these out loud together. I release the need for perfection and open myself to the wisdom of divine timing and flow. I serve from love, not obligation, and I honor my boundaries. I am open to creating new habits that support my physical and spiritual health. I trust that even in uncertainty, I am guided by something greater. I don't know how I am bringing my body and spirit into harmony. I only know that I am now. Put your hands on your heart and breathe it in. For the next 3 to 4 weeks, be on the lookout for divine messages about your life, especially around your physical and spiritual health. Please write down every day if you can get like a little spiral notebook or just like a piece of scrap paper and you just say, okay, what are the messages for today? What are God's messages for me today? Write down what comes into your mind. I really think this can be a very powerful thing to do, especially now as we're heading into this eclipse season. But also set aside some time to tidy and declutter your home. This is a great time to do that. This is a great time to ponder the balance between healthy perfection seeking and unhealthy perfectionism. It is not wrong to want to get things right. It is not wrong to want things to be as perfect as possible. But there is a point where it can become unhealthy. So for each of us, we have to figure out what is the appropriate line for me. And the things that happen between now and September 22nd are happening to draw our attention to old cycles that need to end and new cycles that are about to begin. So, whatever happens in the next month, hang in there and just pay attention to what shows up in your life. You cannot really do this wrong. Um, you are going to be led and guided in exactly the right way for you. But the more conscious you are of what is going on, I think the more powerful of an experience that you will have. Instead of feeling like you're along for this ride that you don't understand, you will be in the driver's seat, co-driving with God, and that is just really, really exciting. So thank you for being here. Be sure to come hang out on Facebook at Intuitive Healing with Ali Duzette. And this exact week, everything at aliduzetteclasses.com is on a 37% off sale with the code YAY37, and it expires on August 31st of 2025. So sorry for all my friends watching this afterwards, but if you've had a session that you've been wanting to do and been waiting for it to be on sale, it's on sale right now, so I'm going to recommend that. Be sure to like and follow for more, subscribe, whatever, and I'm hoping to have more videos about this eclipse cycle very soon. I hope that your day is amazing, and thank you for being here.